Hi, good morning, everyone. This is Kenneth Price, and this is Saturday, October 8th. And this is a special Zoom call that I've arranged. The name of the Zoom call is 12 Steps to A Course in Miracles. And I've been a 12 stepper for over 30 years. I started the 12 steps when I was in my very early 20s. And just like everyone else in the 12 steps, I derived tremendous benefits, not only from Alcoholics Anonymous, but from Al-Anon and another program called ACOA. Folks, I am what they call a grateful member of this fellowship. And I even call myself an old timer, although my sobriety dates have been extraordinarily dubious. I am what they consider an old timer. Now, what happened in my story, folks, I'm 55 years old, is on or about 15 years ago, I was prompted to go a lot deeper. I needed to actually find out what were the mechanics that were driving my addictions, that were driving my compulsivities, that were driving what the program would call basically my character defects. And if you're in the 12 steps, you know that we get on our knees and we ask for help. And the help did arrive, folks. I was introduced to A Course in Miracles. And at first, of course, I compared the two. What are the differences? Well, we've all been in the 12 steps, look at the similarities instead of the differences. But I still had a pretty intact ego when the Course in Miracles found me. But that's fine, because, nature abhors a vacuum. And God said, or my higher power said, it's time for you to go in this direction. And the Course in Miracles enabled me to do a deep dive into the metaphysics of this man's ego and begin an unwinding process that was just something I can't not share. We're all 12 steppers here, so we know the only way we can keep the miracle is to share the miracle, basically. So this is my contribution, folks. I'm going to be hosting this hour and 15-minute Zoom call. Let's see the participants. It looks like we got 4 on board. Let me switch to gallery view. We've got Watson, Casey, and Chris. I haven't met Chris yet. And at 10:15, folks, we're going to have, hopefully, with my fingers crossed, somebody come on board who actually was my first bridge. Over 13 years ago, a man by the name of Reverend Dale Blakford, who was doing a Unity radio show on the 12 steps and A Course in Miracles, was the one who got me started on all this. And I certainly hope when 10:15 arrives, he's going to come on board, because he's got some powerful wisdom, folks, and I definitely want him to be recorded. So that being said, this is being recorded for YouTube. And the reason I do that is because when 2 or more gather, folks, powerful wisdom comes out, just stuff I could not be more thrilled. Okay, you can see I'm looking down at my iPhone, and I'll tell you why. Every time I do a Zoom call, folks, I have to get out of the way. Don't think I'm cured. I don't think I'm enlightened. I'm enlightened in this moment, and I have to practice this every single day. We all know if we're in the 12 steps, we know, based on a contingent upon a daily spiritual maintenance. I know all the vernacular. But in order to do this, I'm going to start off and I'm going to say 2 prayers. The first one comes from the Course in Miracles. The second one comes from the 12 steps. And you'll see they're both pointing in the same direction. Basically, in a nutshell, Chris, can you mute yourself until we're ready to go forward? Basically, in a nutshell, folks. No, that's okay. That's okay. It's my fault. I'm the host. I'm supposed to know how to do all this. Basically, what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be seeing how the Course in Miracles complements the 12 steps. And if I may be so bold as to say, I call it the 12 steps on steroids. When Bill W. wrote the 12 steps, it was 1930s, and he didn't have advanced metaphysical language, which was great because he had to keep it real simple. But the advanced metaphysics of the Course in Miracles lets us take it from spiritual kindergarten into spiritual adulthood. That's as far as I'm going to say. All right. Remember, I said I got to get out of the way. So, Kenneth is going to get out of the way and let Spirit move through this meeting with 2 prayers, starting off with the healer's prayer, which is directly from the Course in Miracles, which goes like this. We are here only to be truly helpful and we are here to represent him or her who sent us. We do not have to worry about what to say or what to do, because he or she who sent us will direct us. We are content to be wherever he or she wishes, knowing that he or she goes there with us, and we will be healed as we let him or her teach us how to heal from the Course in Miracles. Now it's time for the 12 steps. There's many different prayers for the 12 steps, but this is the one that's always been my favorite at all of the meetings. God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those who I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. That's it, folks. That's my 6-minute introduction for Saturday, October 8th. I've hosted many Zoom calls in the past. This is unique. This is only the second one I've done for A Course in Miracles to a 12 steps. So I don't know which direction this needs to go. This needs to go whatever direction that you guys want it to go. Hold on, Diona said she's having trouble getting in. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to hand the Zoom call. I'm not going to hand it over. Diona's having trouble. I'm just on my screen. I'm getting little blurbs. What would you guys like to get out of this? Do you have any questions? I'm an open book. I've just been, I'll share with a little bit, back in 2017, I began to immerse myself. Let me just back up. In 2017, I found my latest spiritual teacher, who is David Hoffmeister, and he teaches out of the Course in Miracles. And he's been the one for the last 5 years who I've been working with every single day for 5 years to not to combat my ego, not to go to war with my ego, not to try and put pink paint over my ego, but to slowly notice it, unbelieve it, and back out of it. Course in Miracles, and it's the same way, all the 12 steps. It's not about trying to, at first we've got to believe in God, but we have to get to a place. Oh, Diona, thank goodness Diona got in. Hi, Diona, I'm so glad you got in. But Diona is one of my mighty companions in the Living Miracles community. But what was I saying? The Course in Miracles is about backing ourselves, reverse engineering ourselves, unbelieving in our egos, so that we can arrive at the Holy Grail. God just is, folks. God is just the given. God is the only truth. God, good, orderly direction. Let's not get caught on the vernacular. But what the Course in Miracles does is it unwinds us and unbelieves the dream character itself, and we just simply begin to notice that God, from the 12 steps, God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. All right, I talked for about 9 minutes. Who wants? I know who I want. I want to start it off with one of my favorite mighty companions, and she knows. So I'm going to pick on her next. Her name is Diona. Diona and I met serendipitously in Utah back in 2020, just as COVID was getting down. We both immersed ourselves in co-living with the Living Miracles community. It was no accident that Diona and I met, because we went to live in a co-living environment where it was strictly Course in Miracles, and it just so happens we were both 12 steppers. And folks, we've been supporting each other through this journey for the last over 2.5 years. I've talked and talked. It's been 10 minutes. Diona, how are you, sweetie, this morning?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Diona. Thank you, Kenneth. This is, can you kind of share with me, like, what are we talking about?
This is what I love about these Zoom calls. We talk about whatever comes up, whatever needs to be discussed, whatever someone needs to hear. What would be helpful? I don't have structure. It's all in God's hands. Even testimonies. I know Diona is if I could share, be candid. It's being recorded to YouTube, by the way. Diona she works in treatment. I think she works in a treatment center. She's in the middle of it. Yeah, and I do outreach, as well. So anywhere you'd feel comfortable going, Diona. And then we'll get to Chris next because she's someone I haven't met yet. And then we got Watson and Casey, who I know real well.
Okay, thanks, Kenneth. Yeah, when you yeah, I do currently work at a treatment center, and I'm using it. I mean, of course, it's just the ego wants to tell me I'm there to earn money. I'm there to do X, Y, and Z, but what I'm there for is to unwind from the character, the Deanna character, so that I can experience this peace and love that's already what I really am. And I had an experience of this a few days ago. I was sitting with a client and we were talking about step 2, which is came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. And actually, before I share this story, what I often reflect on throughout the day is how beautifully these steps open up to what A Course in Miracles is saying. Because for the longest time, I studied A Course in Miracles intellectually. So it's like I had to come, and then I had to come to, and then I had to come to believe that the Holy Spirit would reveal to me and show me this way through the experience of it. Because it's not something I can do intellectually, nor could I do the 12 steps intellectually. But I was sitting with this client and talking about step 2, and he was just so in his head, and I was just watching the thoughts come up. I'm like, okay. So I was like, okay, clearly this is a reflection of where where my mind is at. I'm in my head, and I'm trying to get this guy to see if he would just understand what I'm trying to tell him. If he could just see it, maybe if I explain it this way, maybe if I explain it that way. And all of a sudden, it's like it dawned on me, Deanna, just step back and look at this with the Holy Spirit. Just step back and look at it with the love and peace of the Holy Spirit in my mind. And so it was like making that slight tweak in the mind from the place of, I've got to get him to understand this, the ego mind. He's over there, I'm over here, the separation. I've got to get him to understand, to I'm just going to watch all of this come up, and I'm going to do it with spirit. I'm not going to try to fix it. I'm going to try to change it. I'm just going to be in the allowance of it. And when I did that, it was like all of a sudden the guy completely, his face got brighter. It was like it turned a peachy color. He had a glow to him, like a peachy glow. And he wasn't, there was the resistance lifted. It's like he was just in this place of flow. And it's like that merge that happens. When I got out of the way, I allowed myself to be done through, and it was like the mind just stabilized itself in the peace and love that it naturally is. And I was just in absolute awe of that. Yeah, I was just in awe of that. It was a beautiful experience. And I love those experiences.
And doesn't that just tie into what we heard in the 12 steps? The way we recover is we extend. That means told at the very beginning. Extend the hand, to someone else. And the Course in Miracles is basically saying the same thing. It's saying others are reflections. Your brother is your savior. That's what they say. I wrote down several notes as you were talking. Because I was going through the same thing this week. I took an outreach call. That was just I was spinning. I go, Kenneth, I got into someone else's story. And I realized that I was upset. I said, no, Kenneth, you're not upset. you've been set up. This is part of my learning, as I have been, this savior has come to wind me up into her story so that I can practice one more time exactly what you were practicing, Deanna, because the person was all in their head. And I thought they shouldn't be in there. No, no, no. In order for me to notice they were in their head, I was in my head at that time. This is what I love about the program, is every single person who comes to me is my teacher. And I didn't like it. I had to go down by the river, and she shouldn't be in her head. I can't do that anymore. I have to take full responsibility. And I took a walk down by the river. Show me where I'm in my head. But look, Fiona, like, you're laughing about it now. I'm laughing about it now. Watson and I were laughing about it, today, yesterday. It's called the work, in other words. And part of the reason I've loved the 12 steps and I've loved, the Course in Miracles, is both programs say we do the work in community. Dion and I are, this is good for this Zoom archive. Dion and I talk on the phone. We've been talking on the phone for the last 2.5 years doing the work together. Because when it hurts, when I'm scared and frightened, and when she's scared and frightened, we pick up the phone and say, I'm scared and frightened. Oh, so am I. Let's unbelieve it together. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's how the heart opens, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful. I was just thinking when you said that, it's like this, the forgiveness process, you were just talking about it, Kenneth, like the first step is I have to bring the projection back and quit buying the bullshit stories. Like, I can't buy the lies anymore that, oh, I feel this way because if they wouldn't have done that. And Keith Kavanaugh, he's so amazing. I love this guy. He does Zoom classes on Course in Miracles every Sunday, but he says it like, if they wouldn't do that, I could be a happy ego. If they hadn't done that, I could be a happy ego. Now, when I tell myself that, I'm like, clearly that is bullshit, because there would be something behind that. There'd be another story, something else that I would be upset about or pissed about. But when we just remember to bring the projection back, and then the second step, and I think for me, this has been the experience of it, is that step, the step 2 of the forgiveness is being willing to look at whatever is there, be willing to look at my ego without judging it, or without trying to fix it or stifle it or justify or minimize, but just look at it. Just be willing to look at it. And the Holy Spirit's job is a step 3. And in that, it dispels it. And that's what happened to me with that guy at the table when I was talking about the step 2, came to believe that a power greater than myself. I mean, I experienced step 2 sitting at the table. I was restored to sanity because I was willing to be like, wait a minute, it's not this guy. And it's not about this guy being in his head. It's about, I'm seeing that because I'm trying to convince him and get him to see, and I'm increasing in frustration. Let me bring the projection back. Let me take responsibility for my mind. Let me bring the projection back, and let me just look at this. And then step 3, the Holy Spirit dispels it. That's bringing the darkness or the light to the darkness, right? I always get confused how to say that correctly. Kenneth, help me.
You're on a roll. I don't want to jump in, and I'm so glad it's being recorded. Keep going.
Okay, well, so that is bringing the light to the darkness. Yeah, I can't bring the darkness into the light. So that was bringing the light to the darkness. And within that step 2 of just saying, oh, wow, I can't, I have to just look at this. I just have to just allow it. Can't try to wrestle with it. And trying to think, somewhere in the big book, it talks about that. We try to wrestle satisfaction out of this world. If only he would behave. If only David Hoffmeister talks about that a lot. If only this, if only that, if only he would get it. Like, can he get it? But I dropped, in that moment, I was able to drop the story. And because of that, I had an experience in the holy instant where it all just melted. That step 3, the Holy Spirit did his part. He just dispelled it. And I heard Keith saying the other day, it's like someone comes in and turns the dimmer switch on the light up just a little bit. It's like the light just goes up a little bit. And when his face started to glow, and you could just feel the mind stabilize. It was a powerful experience. I'm like, I want more of that.
Oh, there's
But willingness
Deanna,
to just drop the stories.
I followed you for 2.5 years. You're just beginning. It's just, that's why I want to stay in contact with you. Because if you don't mind, Deanna, we have a newcomer. Her name is Chris, and I want to give each person an opportunity to share if they
Absolutely.
want. I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but Chris, how did you find this? Is any of this ringing true? This meeting's for everyone. Whatever's coming up today, Saturday.
Hi. Thanks. I'm being shy today with my camera off because I'm doing a bunch of stuff. I've been Zooming for 12 ACIM stuff since early morning. So I'm kind of trying to take care of tasks while participating at the same time. I found you through Speakeasy. Does that sound right?
Well, I put the invitation all out over Facebook. I don't know what Speakeasy is.
Okay, well then I don't know. It must have been through Facebook. It must have been something someone put on my page. It must be something I followed. And I happen to sort of know Deanna, only virtually, and not recently. We haven't had interaction recently, but she's someone that I have felt connected to and enjoyed her perspective. Yeah, it's all ringing true for me. I feel like, well, it's very appropriate. I mean, there's someone in my life, two people in my life, that I'm really good at seeing their character defects. And, they're big, and there's been a lot of trauma from the like 3D perspective. There's from the perspective of form, there's been a lot of trauma in relationship to them, but that's not the ultimate truth. And when I find myself blaming them, I need constant reminders still to bring it back to how am I perceiving this, and for me, the course picks up where I don't want to say the program leaves off, but for me, I need the extra. I don't really have that much difficulty staying away from major addictions. There's very minor little things like a little too much screen time or, but I don't have that issue anymore, but I very much still have the thinking. And so the course is helping me enormously with that. And it's really lovely to see Deanna, and it's lovely to be here. I don't know if I'll be able to be here regularly, but I'm certainly gonna pop in and out when I can. So, and I'll show my face next time.
It's just, Chris, we're all, what is it? I love the AA phrase to say, where is it in our AA, just 12 step, I'm not going to use AA, 12 steps. Where is it in our 12-step program that says, you will surely meet some of us as we trudge the road to happy destiny? I've never been able to do this alone. I remember back in the late 80s, remember dial phones? I don't know how old you are, Chris, can't see your face. I think Watson remembers
very
dial
much.
phones.
I'm probably older than you.
Oh, well, and we're going to get to Casey next. And Casey's too young to remember dial phones. Hi, Casey. I'm going to put him on the spot. I don't. I'm always getting called out because I'm making fun of my age, but I'm proud to be 55. Casey, how's this sitting for you, buddy? Casey's another one. Casey and I met through a 12-step program. I have just been thrilled. Casey and I have been talking on the phone for how many years have been now, Casey? 2 years plus? Share with me, buddy.
Yeah, a little over 2.
And we have been, Casey, I cannot tell you how much I've enjoyed our calls together. And they've gone on for hours. I take your car, I walk down by the river, I'm on the railroad tracks, and we're talking and talking. And we met in a 12-step program. And he was struggling with some of the things that I was struggling with in the very beginning of the 12 step, because um, he was struggling, and that was the same exact struggle that I had when I was his age. And so it was, Casey, it's just been a joy to have you on board as my mighty companion all this time.
Yeah, thanks, Kenneth. Yeah, we met through I think I've seen you post a video from YouTube but linked it onto a like an ACA group, Facebook group, and I watched it and I was like, oh man, I need to reach out and try to, because sometimes it's hard to link with people or network with people or talk with people that post videos on YouTube, but then since you're on Facebook now, it's like a lot easier access. I feel but it's more open, I guess, than the whole YouTube deal, or kind of anyways. And so yeah, I really as Kenneth mentioned, I really struggled with being, when I heard what resonated with me was willing to let go of the story, and really struggled with family dynamics and holding on to, and still to this day, I can get triggered by some family members. I would be lying if I said I didn't. And what kind of, I don't really know a whole lot about the course, but what, especially, and even in the 12 step groups, there's a little bit of differentiation. And depending on who you talk to, you'll hear different stories about setting up boundaries and this and that. And, I spent a couple hours with my granddad the other day, and it was pretty triggering. I mean, not really. I just knew that I definitely got uneasy, and it all kind of boiled down to that I just didn't feel heard. I felt preached to and that kind of deal. And I just had to kind of remind myself that that's kind of where he's at. And maybe in all good intentions, he was trying to share his beliefs with me. And but at the same time, my ego didn't feel like it was heard, and that I have no basically my beliefs, currently where they're at, or what they're about, are incorrect by someone else's standards. But anyways, yeah, I'm still kind of, I'm open to learning more about the course. I've only actually really participated in 12 step groups in the last about 2.5 years, closer to, well, actually a little over 2.5. And so that's kind of been, like I said, what resonated with me, and that's kind of been like a key part that I sometimes seem to forget, is the whole accepting and willingness part. And that's some words that exist in 12 step groups, and but that willingness to let go of the story, um, and yeah, I don't know. I'm just kind of listening. I thought that may be somewhat relative to kind of what we were talking about or what I was hearing. And I would like to, if we have some time, Deanna or Kenneth, but I think Deanna was the one that kind of mentioned it, about the taking the 12 steps literally, and kind of elaborate on that a little bit, because I think that we read black and white, and that's exactly what the program teaches us not to do, is no black and white thinking. And but then again, it can be, and I'm not knocking the programs. It's just kind of a conflicting idea sometimes I have, about the, I don't want to use strong words, but I don't really have a word I could think of right now, but it's kind of like doctrine, where it is black and white, and this is And I know that they say take what you want and leave the rest. And so maybe just elaborate on the taking some of these some of this literature literally. And because I think that that's especially a person that's very analytical, or someone that goes like a step process, like this is it, and this is the rigid step by step process, or the recipe that I have to follow. And so anyways, just I think for me the big part has been like the key, like how it works: honesty, open mindedness, and willingness. Anyways, and I don't want to take up too much time, but I'm enjoying hearing what I'm hearing, and just glad to be here and glad that I was invited. Thank you.
Casey, the whole time that you and I have been joining in this, we've been lubricating this doctrine and dogma. We've been softening it's just part of our soul contract, and part of our work together is lubricating the rigid elements to perceive them, to continue refining our perception. What I want to do is I want to give we've got Dale on board. He said he was coming late because he had a previous meeting, and I want to give Watson a chance. So if it's all right, we can get to Deanna again, but I want to continue doing the circle. But here's what I want to do with the meeting now. I want to introduce everybody. The man who first introduced me, to. I was a Course in Miracles student, but I was still heavily involved in the 12 steps. And about 13 years ago, through more synchronicity, I was introduced to a man from Unity Radio, and I can't remember, it was somewhere in the Midwest. His name was Reverend Dale Blakford, and he's been my spiritual teacher to introduce me to the non-dual, the non-duality of the Course in Miracles, and helped me to navigate both programs. I'm thrilled to have him on. As a matter of fact, I put in the chat, if you want to look at the chat, I put 2 of his publications. One is called The Seeds of Content, and the other one I found online. There are still his archives from Unity Radio. So Dale, if you would be interested, I've been trying to get you on camera, video recording for many years. If you'd be interested in unmuting yourself, I've always just wanted to get you recorded. Yeah. Because you say it in a way that is not, you say it in your own unique way, and I've been able to hear it, and I've been thrilled for 13 years. So I'm putting you on the spot. Yeah. We've got Deanna. Go ahead. I'll let you go.
I was catching part of what Casey was saying. I'm not quite sure where that was going, but it was interesting. Because I think what was coming up for me with 12 steps is it's real interesting, because 12 steps kind of like a real broad approach to this. That's it's like a really powerful spiritual approach, but it's broad in the sense that it's real broad because people bring their own sense of who they think they are, and their own sense of who they think and what higher power is. And that's really, really wide. And to me, I don't know if I can comment on what Casey was saying, but what I was hearing just in the bits I heard since I came on was that the literalness of the program versus more of a mystical approach seems to be based on that, like how a person sees themselves and sees their higher power. For example, like if you believe your higher power is like Old Testament or something like that, some kind of God that punishes you if you're wrong and rewards you if you're right, and you are in this world and of it, like your sense of self is grounded in this world, then the program really works to try and help you survive, because you're in a very dangerous place. You're being attacked, with your mind, and you're being attacked in the world all the time. Where if you go like even to the opposite extreme, which is where your God is I'll tell you, my God, I'm like with Einstein. It's like I live in a friendly universe. So if God doesn't really just treat me like it's not God's a person. I have to, it's hard to talk about this in dualistic language, but if God treats me like the light I am, the child of the universe, it's like I expect God to treat me that way. I don't expect lessons. For instance, I don't expect lessons on this world. Like if God's if my higher power is creating lessons for me, I'm like, yeah, you know, I don't believe in you. You can go take a pass because I don't believe in you. My higher power is the one that just like cradles me and loves me and carries me into uncertainty. And even when I'm struggling and stressed and frightened or whatever, or angry, it's like that spirit is like whispering in my ear, oh, I've got something incredible to show you, and guides me in there, like just that doesn't point at me to where to go, because that's not friendly enough for me. In this world, it's not friendly enough for me to have good guidance. I need the pathway. I need to be escorted into it. And I do. I need to get, that's my higher power escorts me. So everything is friendly, like not hostile. And if it's friendly, then I'm always constantly waiting for the friendliness if I don't see it. If I don't see it, rather than judging it as the hostile. If I have approached that way with 12 steps, for instance, it changes a lot how I practice the program versus that first one I said, which is where I'm really counting on, you know, I'm clinging to God to save me, versus the one that's saying, I'm really like, okay, let's go into this. I want to see the beauty of life. You know, and it's all around me. And I refuse to accept that there isn't it. It isn't there. But see, now that's an interesting thing though, because I could hear doubt on that. And just as I say that, because that really has to do with my concept with who I am. Because if I think that I am the self that I project, psychological self or physical self, or what mental, emotional self that I project, if I think I'm that, well, that projection, is it dangerous to be in that projection in the world? Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it's really dangerous. It can be attacked, it can be destroyed, it can be abused, it can be all that. But as the watcher who watches this all and watches the river run, letting everything go by, I'm never in danger. I've never been in danger in my life. The only danger I've thought I was in was the danger I believed in my mind, and I was insane believing that. Not bad thing to be insane, but still is insane. So those changes from how we do the program, and that's what I love about 12 steps too, because it's really about listening, and everybody can have their own way of how they work with it. There isn't a right or the wrong. There's the way that we work with it, the way we need to work with it right now. Is it wrong to battle in this world? Not if that's what is going on in your mind. It's not wrong. It just is what it is. And that grace has a way of showing, you know, bringing us through that. At the very least, we come through it when we die. We all come through it when we die, because we don't get to take any of this with us. It's like it's all, you know, we have to let it all go. You know, it's like when John Rockefeller died, one of his advisors, somebody came up to him, and after Rockefeller died, was the richest man in the world this years ago, and he said, what did John D. leave? You know, what did he leave when he died? The guy said, oh, he left everything. He left everything. Because we do. You know, we don't have anything else to attach to. This world's about attachment. And, you know, for me, it's a world about attachment. It's kind of like a theme park. You can take the rides, and you can get on the roller coaster, and you can think that roller coaster is going to kill you. Or you can think it's, you know, it's totally safe, and you can still be scared and enjoy enjoy the drama and the fear. But when it gets down to it, I mean, then of course this is all about, I'm talking all about 12 steps, but that ties it into Course in Miracles, because the basis of 12 steps, the real basis of it, are the first 3 steps, which are totally compatible with Course in Miracles, which is I can't do it. And then we're talking about the self. I can't do it. God can, or higher power can, and I'll let God or higher power do it. And that's, if you look at the Course in Miracles, that's what that's all about. It's all just talking about how everything's in order and how we how what an illusion it is to believe that it's not. Anyway, it's kind of what I guess I'm done for now.
Um, oh, Dale, you know, for years I've been trying to I've actually wanted to record. I mean, these conversations with Dale. I mean, I've had him on the phone for years, and I've said, "How can I record this? How can I record this?" I finally got it. But before we get on to Watson, can I share, Dale? You came on last week for my first Zoom call, and you were in the hospital. Is that okay if I share?
Oh yeah. I was in the hospital. I got out Monday.
That's good. I'm glad you're out. But you said something. You said, how did you put it? You said, I'm missing something here. What am I not seeing? What am I not seeing?
Right.
And after we get off,
yeah.
and after we get off the Zoom call, I went down by the river because I got more stuff coming in, and I remembered what you had said to me on that Zoom call. You said, you didn't say it to me, but you asked what am I not seeing? And I took that. This is the reason, you know, I do these calls. The reason I joined. And Watson's raising his hand. I went down by the river and I said, as soon as I feel an upset, I've got to ask myself, what am I not seeing? Because based on your premise, it's a friendly universe. This is all happening for me. You know, remember your analogy years ago, man digging through a pile of pony shit. Why the hell are you digging through that pile of pony shit? Because there's got to be a pony down here somewhere. Dale, that's been with me for 10 years.
Yeah. Well, if you look at Einstein, when he said, you know, the most important decision you can make is whether you live in a friendly or hostile universe, which really clicks for me, then the question always changes from when I'm looking at something like, quote, wrong, which is, you know, if I'm judging all the time that something's right or wrong, if I look at something that's wrong, then it's a question. It always just becomes the question. Then if it's wrong and it needs fixing, then I'm believing that I'm in a hostile universe. And if I believe I'm in a friendly universe, it's very obvious that the only perceptual thing that could be going on is that I'm missing something. I'm not seeing the friendliness of the universe. You know, it's funny, and I'll shut up after this and give some time. I was watching a movie last night called Bullet Train with Brad Pitt, and I thought this was so amazing because this was like a raucous, you know, violent, just kind of just speaking to that kind of thing movie. And at the end, the Brad Pitt character is like the closing scenes of it, and he's with Sandra Bullock, and she has this really cool car, and it's all this destruction's going on, and he says to her something like, "God, that's a really neat car," and she goes, "Yeah, it is." And then right as that happens, all the destruction around us, like something like a telephone pole or something crashes down and just destroys the car. Like as soon as he says that, and she's looking like, what? And he's looking at it and he's going like, and he says this in this movie, and I'm sitting, I'm just as amazed it was in the movie, because it was like in this gore violent movie about, you know, craziness and comedy. And he says something like, oh, but that the destruction, something like that could be a good thing, couldn't it? He says, like, with a destruction of cars. She's looking at him like, what? And he's going like, that could be a good thing, couldn't it? And then he turns to her and he says, yeah. He says like something like, yeah, I'm working on that now. And that blew my mind, that in a movie like this, because that's not a commonly perceived strategy, to look at things that are obviously wrong in the world, and to have the awareness withal to pause and not and stop that judgment and go, well, like think outside the box and go, well, wait a minute, what am I missing? You know, like someone dies or something horrible happens, and you go, wait a minute, what am I missing? What am I mean, that takes spiritual awareness to do that, because if you're aware only of the world, you're not going to do that. You're going to think it's crazy. Of course it's bad when your car gets destroyed like that. Is it? And in the movie, they actually acted it out, and I was like, wow, things are changing. If that's going to become common knowledge and common doctrine, whatever.
Aho, amen, and shalom. Watson, how's this finally? I'm getting to you, Watson. 45 minutes. Because Watson, I do this. We just did this on the phone this morning. We did it on the phone yesterday. Watson said, I called Watson. I'm frustrated, but it's got to be about me. I'm frustrated, but it's got a big old smile there. How's this sitting for you, buddy?
I'm sitting here just in awe of Dale and Casey and Chris, everybody, and Deona for opening up my eyes. I'm not familiar with 12-step programs. 20 some years ago, I was married to an alcoholic and joined an Al-Anon group, and I had no idea why. I was just recommended to do that, and I had no idea why I was there. And even with the group support in those meetings, I was still trying to control someone else's ego. And it's such a huge mistake. And with the brief encounters I've had with A Course in Miracles so far, I'm now understanding that absolutely that is the polar opposite of what my Holy Spirit wants me to do, and my spirit self or my Christ consciousness wants me to do. And I'm getting to the point where I think that I'm able to assimilate the two, the Al-Anon or the 12-step and the Course in Miracles. I'm learning and thinking all day long, it seems, and trying to kick out the other distractions of my ego and kick it to the curb, at least for the time being. And I know I'm not saying a whole lot, but it's just my understanding of what is. And I do get a lot of information out of, I was introduced to a really beautiful spirit. Her name is Anna Brown, and she has very short, concise Course in Miracle explanations, if you will, of what is and just being. And I really like that. And I refer my spirit back to her, or my ego, which is up on the screen, back to what she says a lot. And it's just so refreshing and relieving to just let it go. Just let it go. There's not a damn thing I can do about anything, especially from someone else's ego's standpoint. And just to be there, loving and compassionate, and to just be. And again, that's sort of not hitting one point. It might be hitting 1,000 points, and not very concisely, but that's the way I'm trying to pull it all together. And I know I know there's no right or wrong way to do that necessarily, but I think when I do reflect on some of that, it does start to make my spirit self come out, and my heart just explode with love. And yeah, we all go through hardships. I'm going through quite a few right now, but I can't let that overwhelm. That's all about the ego, and I can't let that overwhelm spirit, Watson. So there we have it.
I want to get back to Casey, because I want to keep looping around this Zoom call for the time we have left. But before we loop to Casey, I got to share one quick story. This is probably about 4 years ago. Where we at? 28. So it's 2006, 17, 19, 20, 21. 4 years ago. I had just lost my temper. I live in communal housing, and I had just lost my temper at my roommate. And I had done something that I had never done before. I got into somebody's face, and I called him, never mind what I called him, and I got in his face. And I could feel immediately. I could feel right here. No. I mean, I was just so full of guilt and remorse. That's addict behavior. That's violence. And so it's still difficult for me to pick up the phone, but I called Dale. And I said, Dale, I need help, buddy. I just lost my temper. And I just called my roommate, blankety blankety blank. And without missing a beat, he said, oh, well, I just called my girlfriend blankety blankety blank. And he said, that's not who, if I can remember how the phone call went, he said, I know who you are, and that's not who you are, period. And it was in that moment, made the differentiate, because the ego speaking and here's who you are. I was able to forgive myself in that moment. That's how this works, folks. I'm not enlightened. I still go back into my ego. Contingent on a daily spiritual maintenance day. I love the program stuff. Casey, how's this sitting for you? I wanted to introduce you to Dale. You want to unmute yourself? Now I got you both in the same Zoom call, because Casey, all the stuff that you and I have been going over the last couple of years, it's just come. I mean, call Dale my sponsor, for lack of a better terms. Call me your sponsor, for lack of a better terms. Dale, Casey, meet your grandfather. Grandpa Dale. How's this sitting for you, buddy?
Yeah, no, it's good. I guess that's I don't know. I guess I don't really know how to say this, but I find talking with people that have different oh man, I don't know. Like I guess it's been refreshing to talk with people with different perspectives, or bigger picture, kind of a more open-minded, I guess, because I know, and this might sound coming from the ego, in this world, a lot of people, including myself, have at one time or still do believe in the I can't speak for everyone, but it just seems to be that whether there's and I don't want to get into different spiritual beliefs, but just in a worldly view, that there's a structure behind it, and this, and could be like what resonated with me was the uh, was it not Carnegie, it was Rockefeller, I think, that was mentioned about how he died and left everything behind, and especially in Western societies, a lot of us view like we're very materialistic, and so it's just looking at the bigger picture on a more spiritual field. I think that because I've always questioned, that's probably what's been kind of uneasy for me growing up. Even as a kid, I was scared of death, and I would always think what would go on, how would the planets and all this stuff and all that. And of course, my conception of life has changed. My beliefs of life have changed throughout the years. And I've always kind of looked at the bigger picture, and I've always kind of felt out of place. And so I guess what I'm trying to tie in here is that it's refreshing and nice to talk with people that kind of and connect with people that kind of look at, I guess, the bigger picture, or kind of believe that there's something greater out there, even though we all have our own beliefs about it, and there is no this is it for sure, but I think we can all agree that there is some divinity or some spiritual realm, and so whether it's some may believe outside of us, some believe within us, that we are part of that divine creation, and so just it's it's just like I said, refreshing to kind of be able to share ideas and listen to others' ideas as well. And because some of my friends, back years ago, I wouldn't have any of these conversations with them. And so I guess going into the rooms has allowed to interact with others, that it's, people are open and willing to share about their ideas and beliefs, and we can all relate to some degree on that. Anyways, that's kind of where I'm at, and like I said, I just enjoyed the conversations here, so I'll just end it at that.
Casey, the whole time that you and I have been, joining in these important discussions, you've had, I knew from the very beginning, and all it takes is open-mindedness and willingness, and that's all, and courage to take the next right step. I want to keep these archives, these YouTube recordings, to about an hour. So I want to get to Chris, but I want to end off with Dale, because so again, I'm thrilled that everyone's here, but especially thrilled that I get him archived. But Chris, how's this sitting for you? Do you want to unmute yourself, or if you choose to share any more with us? If not, I'm not putting anybody directly on the spot. Looks like you're still muted down there. That's all right. Dale, we got a few minutes left. How's I don't know. Everyone's saying it for me, so I don't know where should we be wrapping this up? There's so much stuff that we've talked about over the years.
The one thing that when Watson was sharing too, it was coming to me was about this whole thing about the ego is real interesting, because I think that's when things. I was just thinking about this today too. That it's like, it seems like spiritual progress as far as awareness. I don't think there's any other progress but awareness, like waking up basically and seeing what already exists and what not beyond exists, what is. And I know for me, the greatest, and this isn't something I made happen. I'm real blessed to be, for whatever reason, to be shown what I'm shown, and for some reason able to see it. Right. And I have a high emotional pain tolerance, so that's probably pretty damn good. That's why when you called me up and said you said this to someone and created drama, I'm like, oh yeah, I just did that today. I mean, I have a partner who's I mean, I don't know, you ever see the movie the Pink Panthers movies with Peter Sellers? And there was a character, his manservant named Cato. And Cato he had been instructed by Sellers to because he was to keep him sharp. He would when he come home, he would leap out at him from surprise places and attack him like just go, ah! When he was at peace, he had a great day with someone, was in love or something like that, and Cato would go, ah! And he would go, no, Cato, not now, not now, not now. But that's what Cato was supposed to do. And Cato's like my ego. I mean, I look at I created my ego to go, danger, Will Robinson, danger, Will Robinson. And that's what it's really good at in this world. I mean, I got to say that from my ego. In this world, it is very, very astute at recognizing danger in the land of karma and cause and effect. It is sharp as nails with it, really sharp. But I don't live in that world anymore. I watch it. I'm not removed from it. I watch it. I'm in this world, but I'm not of it. So I'm the being now. And so we've already had that before. I had conversations with my ego where my ego says, well, you can't do any of this shit that I'm telling you need to do. And I go, no, I can't. And I'm really excited because it didn't say you won't do it, because it knew that if I said I won't do it, it could make me do it, because it's pretty scary. But it recognized that I couldn't do it. I had no juice for it. And that's really when life started to really get really interesting for me, when that switch happened, where I could actually realize and speak to my ego and say, no, I can't do what you want me to do. I can't do should. I can't do ought to. I can't do prepare for circumstance. I can't do any prepare for circumstance. I have to meet circumstance when it comes only, and if it comes only. And the ego's going like, this isn't the plan. This is who you are. I go, yeah, you got it. This is what, and so my ego's going like, well, then what am I here for? Am I useless? And I go, no, you're not useless. You're a part of me. I created you. I don't know what your purpose is, but I kind of do now. It's like the Cato, because when I do that thing, like where if I call my roommate names like that, and I feel, and then this is interesting about 12 steps too. I think a lot of times 12 steps, for a lot of times they don't get that. It's not bad to act out. Actually, it's very good to act out. It's very good to act out. The important thing is it's an opportunity. If you act out, it's an important opportunity for you to stay conscious and experience what happens to you when you act out, rather than just go unconscious into the message about, oh, I'm fucked up, blah, 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 all this stuff. If you can actually sit in the unconsciousness, then revelation comes. To me, that's when Jesus said, the truth shall make you, you'll know the truth and the truth will make you free. That's big time truth. Like, what am I doing that I'm believing is insanely, I'm judging myself, I'm shaming myself, I'm shutting down. What am I doing instead of just being aware of what's happening? Because if I'm aware of me trying to change another person, then I can go, oh, I get it, Dale. You slip in here and you're actually acting pretty insane, aren't you? You think that this will actually do something, changing, even if you could change another person, you think that would actually affect something. And I go, no, that's crazy. That's crazy. And then I get it. So my partner will do that to me at times quite a bit. And I've gotten to the point where, at first when she used to do it, I go, what the, this is not, I want to go get a therapist in here and have them point out why you're so messed up for doing this. And this is another reason why I like 12 steps, because I think if you're involved with, I'm running out of time. So if you are an addict or you're involved with an addict, if you're in the world, that's considered like a bad thing. And then when people come into the program, they kind of consider it a bad thing. Not for me. I love to hang around addicts. Oh, I love them. And people who are caught in addiction. I love it because everyone is, but the addicts I know in the programs and stuff like that are the only persons who have reached a point where they can actually be honest about what's actually going on. And that's where freedom comes. Freedom comes from recognizing and seeing the truth that you don't have to do anything with it, makes you free. And I stand I bear witness to that working, because ever since I have really been moved into this position of observing, the one thing I notice about my life, and it's been this way for probably at least 15 years now, is, and this is true, this is from my experience for me, the other shoe has never dropped once in 15 years. I wait for it to drop, and it does not drop. It changes or it dissolves away or something, it morphs into something else that I see. It's like, maybe it's the missing piece that I'm not seeing that's friendly usually, but it's a great gift I have, because I look back and try and fix it. Every time I try and fix it, it's like the ego says, oh, good, now we're good to work on this. And then we look at each other and we go, but you can't do anything, can you? You don't have any juice in this area. You're useless to me. The ego's going like, you're useless to me to fix this. I go, yeah, I know. I'm actually really, I can't fix anything, can I? It's like, no, okay, so what do we do? And I said, well, you know what we do? We wait. We wait. We watch. We see what shows up. We see what shows up. We don't prepare for circumstance. We see what kind of circumstance shows up, if it does, and what it looks like. And that was the last thing, is I realized a few years ago, I look back on my life and I'm 100% successful at meeting circumstance. There's never been one time in my life where I haven't successfully met circumstance, not once. So the whole idea, like, I need to fix this because this circumstance is going to overwhelm me. It's like, I don't think so. I mean, I've lived my whole life and I've never been overwhelmed by circumstance. Has things changed? Oh yeah. But have I been destroyed by circumstance? Have I been paralyzed? I mean, have I been destroyed by circumstance? Have I been abused by circumstance? I mean, really abused? And I go, no, I haven't. It just changed, and I was able to move with it some ways. There was a door, a window here, not an escape. So it used to be an escape window, but now it's more like a new door that I just didn't see, but now I see it.
I could not be more thrilled. We could go on and on. And hopefully next week we will go on and on. But I want to keep these YouTube archives at about an hour. So we're about an hour and 5 minutes. But I'm just going to wrap up the YouTube archive. We can keep the Zoom room open. So, it can be, and I often do this because sometimes people they can actually share more freely when they know that they're not being recorded. So for the YouTube archive, this is Kenneth Price on Saturday, October 8th. And this is our second Saturday morning Zoom call for the purpose of bridging the 12 steps with the Course in Miracles. We've had Reverend Dale Blakford, we've had Watson, we've had Casey, we've had Chris, and we had Deanna on earlier, who was actually, she had to leave to go see a client. She's a treatment center counselor. I could not be more thrilled with this, folks. We said two prayers at the beginning of this meeting. We said one from the Course in Miracles and one from the 12 steps. We brought spirit into these rooms. The reason I record these because there's nuggets all over the place. But to keep these short for the YouTube archives, I'm just gonna wrap up the recording now. Leave your comments below. God bless everyone, and may the force be with you. Okay, much love, Kenneth Price. Bye.